Download What Buyers Want from Photographers, our free survey of 500 photo buyers and editors at photoshelter.com/mkt/research.
But Erin Fagerland from Martha Stewart Living, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
You are.
Just checking. Um, Started with studying photography at FIT. Why don't you take us kind of through your curriculum vitae here?
Well, let's see. It's changed since I left there, but it was initially just a 2-year program. Now it's a 4-year program, and it takes you through anything from like the history of photography to the darkroom usage, all the way through the highest level of digital technology that we have for photography today, and full courses on just lighting and different development techniques, and pretty much it's very, very technical. And they basically sit you down and say, if you don't want to be a photographer, just leave. But that's like, you find your niche.
Exactly. And how did you get into Martha Stewart Living?
Well, basically, I obviously have always been interested in art, and then slowly into photography. And then I realized while I was there that there were all these other kinds of positions that involved photography, and I really like helping photographers get jobs, but I didn't want to be an agent. So I went back to school for communications and found that like print and new media was really sort of my thing. And I basically volunteered. I asked for an internship and they hired me. So
Oh, that's
that was
super.
that. And since then, I just went from interning to freelancing, and then I worked my way up to being an editor.
And in terms of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, the picture researching part of it or the photo editing part of it, can you sort of explain to a photographer of how you would find an image and how that would be used, what context it would be used in?
Oh, sure. It's lots of different things. I mean, Martha Stewart is really its own animal. We are our own brand from the ground up, so we try to shoot pretty much everything. So part of my job is, negotiating contracts with photographers and hiring new people, but also working with the people that we use, regularly. But in terms of stock research, I go through. It could be really anything. Any story that we might have a vision for that we know we're not going to have an opportunity to shoot. Let's say, I don't know, we decide we want a woman on a boat at sunset and we just don't have the time or resources to do that. Then I have, different relationships with different stock agencies, or I'll go on photographers' websites and pull stuff that I think might work. And then it's just a conversation from there between me and Art, and we narrow it down. I look for more. We get the image we like, and if it's the photographers, I just contact them directly and say, is this available to print? We'd love to use it in a story. I send them a copy of the layout, and then we work out pricing from there, and that's pretty much it.
Gotcha. And for the commission-based photo shoots, what's the typical rights that you're requesting from the photographer?
Oh, well, we always start for it all and go down from there.
Right.
But we basically our most common contract that we have, we call no reuse, which means that it's sort of on a job-by-job basis, or they can determine, between the photographer and the company how long they want the contract to go on for. But it's sort of like once you shoot the story for us, we have exclusive rights to it for 3 years from when it's published,
Hmm.
which means that the photographer can use it for their personal use on their website to promote themselves, but they can't sell it to anybody else.
Right.
After that, they can do whatever they want with it, but if we decide to use an outtake or reuse an image from it, we don't have to pay. Another version of that is, of course, basically the same thing. We still have exclusivity for 3 years, but if we do want to reuse it or use something that wasn't originally printed, then we do negotiate fees for that kind of thing. And of course, if we use anything in trade or advertising or in our marketing campaigns, photographers always get paid differently for those.
Right. So you have both commercial as well as editorial usage for images
Yes,
within
I
your
mean,
story.
mainly I work with editorial, but we do have an entire merchandising and, department, and they do their own thing. We have basically a big digital archive with all of our images that we've ever shot for any of our publications, and then anyone in the company can request to use it, but it's a negotiation each time.
Right. So how does Erin find photographers is the question. You have kind of four major bullet points here. Why don't you take us through some
Yeah.
of these?
Okay. Well, of course, there are always, the thing is, um, it's kind of hard, I think, to get in on the editorial side if you come from nowhere. So it's a lot easier if you do have a rep. That being said, it's more fun to talk directly with the photographer and really find out what their work is about and not feel like they're just being pushed on you because that's someone's job. But we do have a lot of agencies that we work with constantly, and we have relationships with them, so we trust them when they say, this person will be great for you. And we always invite them in first to show us their portfolio. A lot of times now it's on an iPad, which is great because we've been doing digital issues and video a lot more. And then hopefully we just try and find a spot for them. So the agents are helpful when they're sort of hands off.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're always open to having people sent over for sure.
And do you think that you guys have a pretty consistent look for the images so that if someone picked up the Martha Stewart Living magazine, they could really get a sense of the style, or do you think it kind of floats around a little bit?
Oh no, we're very strict.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that we have, yeah, it's pretty much very consistent. We do have 4 magazines, that being said, so each one is a little bit different, but they are all under the brand of Martha Stewart and the same clean, sort of beautiful look.
Gotcha.
So I
Kind of
mean, for
contemporary
example,
looking. Yeah. Okay. All
yeah,
right.
and
So,
sorry, go ahead.
um, let's talk about some of the email marketing tips that you have for photographers who are trying to contact you.
Okay. When I say keep it plain and simple, basically mean I like to, when an email comes through, if you just write an email, I think that's great. You didn't have to really, weed through a lot of text or click on too many things. I usually get an email from just with like one just beautiful shot, and then it'll entice click on something and go further. Um, the celebrity thing, that's more, I'm not saying avoid celebrities in general, but more our publications specifically. Like, we never have celebrities in our magazines. We don't celebrity on whatever. It's just not really our thing. So for us specifically, that doesn't work. Digital enhancements, sometimes they know that people, it almost looks like an illustration by the time it's really saturated or dark, and there's like really thing. Again, not any. I don't like getting, several emails a day from the same person. I get, 4 or 5 in the morning from the same photographer, all like, the same shoot, just like 4 different images, and that to me just seems like, okay, you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
If you have something beautiful, I'll look at it. I don't need to be like flooded. Again, that kind of ties in with the bad subject. I know people tend to get really dramatic and poetic, and sometimes their work is extremely beautiful, but you're like, I would have gotten that, without you telling me.
We're getting a little bit of
I like,
interference
I,
from your voice. Maybe
I'm
you're too
sorry?
close to your speakers. We're getting a little bit of interference from. We can't hear you quite well. I don't know if you're
Oh,
too
I'm
close to
sorry.
your
Can you hear better
speakers.
now?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Ooh, now I'm losing you a little bit. I'm sorry. Let's see. I really like when people, I think that they should know the publication or the agency that they're playing to. I don't like getting, sports or Coca-Cola ads that people have shot to my email because, again, that's not really the thing that we do. If you do entertaining or you do food photography or you have a beautiful interior shoot that you just did, like, we love to see everything like that, and we even love to see how you think, you could push the boundaries of what we have already printed. But just, know your audience and send us something that is actually specific to what we print.
Is there a specific day that you prefer to receive emails on? When we spoke to Whitney Lawson from Travel and Leisure, she said, "Don't email me on Monday because I have too many things that I'm dealing
Don't
with
email
right
anyone on Monday.
now." Is that pretty good advice, you think?
That is. I think that's really good advice. And I also saw something about the time of day. I think that the way that we work here anyway is I have time to go through my emails in the morning, but once the day starts and you get it to be like around 11:30 or so, forget it. Like, I skip everything unless I know who's sending it to me because, I just need to keep things moving and talk to the people that I'm working with and get these projects out the door. So I would say even if you send them, late at night when you know everyone's already gone home and they can get it first in the morning on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is a great day because people tend to, try and get everything finished by Thursday so that they have a catch-up day and they're at their desks. So
Yep. And
really
are
any
there
day but
emails?
Monday.
Are there emails that you just won't open because the subject lines are inappropriate or for whatever reason?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't think of an example at the moment, but there have definitely been things where it's just, you can tell that it's like sports mania or something. Open it because I know it's not for us.
Right. Direct mail tips. Bunch of different ideas for sending you direct mail tips. Why don't you take us through some of these?
Sure. I mean, I get tons and tons of direct mailers every day. I would say that anything that's sort of a regular postcard size, just one flat sheet and shiny, typically gets just sort of tossed in the trash, only because it's like, if you see one, you might just grab the whole stack and be like, oh, I'm sure I've seen them all, and toss them out. But we do get a lot of beautiful things that are, I know it sounds silly, but things that are square or things that look like it took you some time to put together. I got a beautiful mailer that almost looked like a little present. It just shows you that someone went the extra mile and they didn't just want you to name and hope that they would get a job, but they thought, that they're proud of their work. They put some effort into it and they really wanted you to take a second to look through it. We love matte paper, beautiful colors. Pick not just your favorite images, but really something that you could look at or have other people say, that they think that's the most beautiful. And, give it the size that it needs to really shine.
Right. Um, so I'll ask you the same question as well. I mean, you mentioned books and postcards, but do you like seeing these photo books that photographers have been creating as promotional pieces?
Um, I have mixed feelings on that. I mean, I do like to see, not really in the mail. Like if you get a whole package in the mail, it might sit on your desk for a little while because you'll feel like, you know, I don't know who sent this to me. It's really large. I'm just going to look at that when I actually have
Right.
time to give to it. I do love when photographers come in to meet with us, and it's not as hard to get a meeting as you might think here. When they show us their portfolio and then they leave us with a small book. I love that because you do always want something that you can bring to your art directors and your creative directors and say like, oh, I think this person would be great and here's why. And, just to have something physically to show them is always really great, but I wouldn't mail them.
Gotcha. And by the way, Kat kind of chimed in on the side here. She says she works 24/7, so there's no good day or bad day for emails. I love that.
Oh, that's good.
Um,
That's nice.
Here's some website tips here.
Yes.
Fast seems to be the key
I
for
totally
yes.
I totally agree with the load fast. Larger photos are better. I don't need them to be actually 900 pixels really, but I just think that like when you open a photographer's website and you see these large images, you have to, I feel like as a photographer, you kind of, the images you take, because you might forget that, someone looking at it might have trouble, or, they don't really want to look at tiny thumbnails. They want to see it and then have an option of maybe larger if they want to use it. Emily Nathan is a photographer that this is like a perfect example. She basically has this website where her images are just large enough for you to see. There's a little arrow if you want to download them. And I just found her site through an email that she sent out. And after like trying to pitch it for a bunch of different stories, we started commissioning her for her own shoots here. But again, it's just a great example of that. The backgrounds, I like them to be, unobstruct the work. I said white because typically we're a very light colored sort of company. Black sort of turns off a lot of people here. Let's see. I don't like
How do you
slide
feel
to.
about watermarks on the images?
Um, when you download them or when you're seeing them
I guess
through the
when you're
whole
seeing
thing?
them, yeah, when you're seeing them on the site.
Yeah, I don't really like it. I think that there are plenty of other options where, you can look at this unobstructed photo, and then if you try to pull it, it'll have a watermark on it, or if you download it, it'll have a watermark on it. That's fine for us because, like our art directors, they sort of understand that you're just pulling it from someone's site. They don't expect to see it clean and beautiful and gorgeous. Um, but on each one in the website, I'm not a fan of. I don't think that it's necessary, and I think it's distracting.
Right. We get a lot of photographers who ask whether, our websites work on the iPad because they're convinced that their clients are looking on, at websites on mobile devices and phones and iPads. Are you
Hmm.
ever in a situation where you're not at your computer? I'm just trying to calibrate expectations with photographers.
Oh yeah, all the time. I think pretty much everyone at work now almost has an iPad. Um, we like to see portfolios on them. I'm checking my work email from my iPhone all the time. Like it's great to see something where, again, like if I'm checking my email on my phone, the images won't necessarily pop up if there's something that has flash or something that and turns into like a view this online. I'll just skip it because I didn't see it to begin with. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Um, let's take a look at some of these, I guess, virtual tear sheets that you sent over. The first one is Adrian Mueller.
Yeah, this is an example of, I think when I was reading through some of the material, talking to Andrew, that this was sort of like an example of an email that someone had sent me that I had already met, and we have worked with him before, and it was just a great little follow-up email. It was really simple, and it was just like, hi, remember me, this is what I've been up to lately, please take a look. And it was just everything was right there in the email. It was really easy to look at. And it's interesting. Like, of course, when you look at this, it's not Martha Stewart style, but he already has credibility with us, and it's just fun to see what he's been doing. And to include a video and some of his favorite shots from his latest work, I think it's personal, and it's nice. It's a good reminder.
Are you seeing more and more motion and video being sent to you? And do you
Yes,
guys actually use
absolutely.
that?
And we actually, I mean, we love that, especially we encourage all the photographers that we work with regularly to give video a shot. We shoot most of them on the Canon 5Ds, um, and it's just so nice to see them do it, and we're more likely to call on them to work with us again because, like I said, we like to add that component to all of our iPad issues.
Ah, yes, yes. You mentioned that you often have relationships with agencies and that's how you're fed a lot of photographers. Are there situations
Hmm.
where you are using amateur photographers? Are you ever scouring Flickr or similar sites? And how would an amateur photographer get on your radar?
Oh, absolutely. I think that our emails, I don't know. I get a lot of emails where I'm like, how did this person even find me? I don't know how this happened. But it's great when it does, and that it's something that you enjoy looking at. And I do definitely look through other photographers' websites, and then photographers that we know who, when we hired them, maybe they had an assistant and the assistant has their own thing going on. They'll send us their link. So it's really all about working. I think I get most of my amateur photographers either just from blogs that I read and beautiful shoots that I find on my own, or through someone that I know in the industry who's like, have you seen this lately? And I just ran into this person. You should check out their stuff. And I'm always open to looking at it. It's really just, fine. I think it's great if you've been on any kind of blog that you should put that somewhere, push it to Facebook or wherever you might put it and really get it out there because it's just like I mean, I've literally hired photographers from people's blogs or people's
Hmm.
parties or like things that we see that are nice.
So are there specific photography blogs that you go to find new work?
Um, I wouldn't say specifically photography, but a lot of things like let's think, food sites mostly. We
Gotcha.
do tasting table. They send out emailers all the time. If they have a beautiful shoot, we'll go to that. Gwyneth Paltrow's site, Goop,
Goop, yep.
we we always, yeah, and like then it always feeds into like now she's on the cover of Bon Appetit, and then we look at who shot in Bon Appetit, and we try and contact some of those people, that kind of thing.
Here's another, I guess this is, was this an email or a postcard
This is
from
an
Joseph
emailer.
Torio? Okay.
This is an email, and I thought it was great just because this is someone that again we've worked with, and he sort of he knows our style, but we hadn't worked with him in a while. And when I opened the email, this was just directly in the body of the work. I didn't have to click on anything. It was right there. And then, his name kind of just stuck out in my head. And I was like, oh, that's right. We haven't worked with him in a really long time. He does such nice work. Like, let's have him for next month. And it just happened that way.
So, when you say this is kind of your style, it has a very natural light look. They're not heavy shadows.
Exactly. We use mostly daylight if you can. We don't really like heavy studio lighting. It's a lot of tabletop interiors, and he also does some food, things like that.
And for a guy like this who is sort of on your radar and you might have used him in the past, what's the frequency with which he should be showing you new work? Is it a monthly thing, a quarterly thing?
I'd say it should be monthly. I wouldn't go quarterly, that's too long. But anything, maybe every 3 weeks, that would be tolerable. I think if he starts hitting you up every week, you're like, okay, enough.
A little desperate, right?
Yeah.
This next guy, I mean, the photography is great, but it just makes me so hungry to see
I know.
this food.
That's the problem, is we get a lot of food photography early in the morning, and then you just want it because you're hungry.
Yeah, so take us through Hector Sanchez of BigLeo.com.
Sure. I picked this one for a couple of reasons. To point out, Big Leo Productions is one of the agencies that we work with quite often. They do photographers and stylists and things like that. This was an email that I got, and it was basically just, one of the agents said, hey, haven't spoken to you in a while, but here's a new guy that we're representing, and I thought it might be your sort of thing. And of course, the timing was perfect because I just happened to be looking for a food photographer that day, and I thought, okay, let me contact him and see if he has more personal work. So I went right to Hector then after that, and went to his personal site, got some stuff printed out, and showed my art director, and they were just like, this is perfect. Let's hire him. So we did, and he shot with us for all of last week.
So let me ask you a question. Brussels sprouts have been so maligned for many, many years, and now they're
Yeah.
like everywhere. Does it matter to you that you're seeing like foods that are sort of in vogue right now when they send you a promo?
Not really. It's not really about that. Interestingly enough, I would think so, but I mean, I've gotten some of the most disgusting, cow stomach and squid parts sent to me, but because the styling is so great and the lighting is so beautiful, that's really all that matters.
We have a question here. When you hire a photographer, does the publication pay for equipment rentals? What's sort of this, if the editorial rate is 300, what's the tolerance for expenses?
That's a very good question. Our editorial rate is not 300. Actually, I could tell you if you want. Our editorial rate is typically $750 a day, and then they can hire a tech for up to $350 a day. Like I said, we are kind of an all in-house. We have 4 studios in here. We have deals with studios in our building that we use when they're not available. We have enormous amounts of equipment, and anything that is not available for you that day or something specific that you want, you have the option of, we have equipment managers here, and we also have contacts at the places that you can go to directly, or you can rent it yourself, and we reimburse whatever it is. Each project has a different budget,
Right.
but it's always a discussion and a negotiation, and we'll never deny you a piece of equipment if you think that's what will be the best to get your job done in the most beautiful way.
And when you have a project in mind for a commission shoot, are you just selecting one photographer, or do you solicit proposals or bids from photographers?
It really depends on the project, I'd say. I mean, I think that we always have to come up with more than one option, and I might hold more than one photographer for a specific project if I think that they would both be great. And then it comes down to, who has the right time, and basically just who's going to make it work for us in the most easy way possible. Sometimes photographers say, oh, I have all these other jobs holding and I need to know right now. And then it's like, well, if you need to know now, sorry, the answer is no. And we have to go with the other person because we have a lot shifting and a lot of different schedules to work with as well.
Mm-hmm.
We always work in a team here. So it's, 6 or 7 different schedules, as well as the photographer and their tech and assistant. So it always comes down to who can actually make it work in the best timing and is comfortable with it and wants to do it.
I guess like a technical question, you're preferring that everyone shoots digitally and submits digital files, and are they retouched before you get them, or does your department do that?
No, we have an in-house imaging team that retouches images. I would say, yeah, pretty much it's like unless the photographer insists, we prefer digital and we prefer to do the retouching in-house, but we have many photographers that we work with that that's just not the way they work. You know, they
Right.
prefer to do the retouching themselves and send it back over, and that's fine. Accept it that way because we hired them trusting that they would do the best.
Right, right. If you had to guess across those four publications that you guys have, how many different
hmm
photographers are you using during the course of the year between commissioned and stock
Oh gosh.
shoots? Are we in the hundreds or the thousands, or are you
Definitely
really just
in
using the
the
same people over and over again?
no, I'd say it's in the hundreds. To be fair, it feels like thousands, but it's not thousands. It's definitely in the hundreds. I think that everyday food is tricky because when we pick one photographer to shoot the entire issue, and there's 10 issues. So that one, I know for sure there's only 10 photographers for that one for a year. For living, we have so many stories, and they're all shot by someone different. We have 12 issues, and then we have pickup imagery from old stories, and then we have stock. It's crazy how much photography goes into that one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's definitely in the hundreds.
We are at the end of the webinar. I can't believe how fast these segments go. I feel like we could ask you questions all day. Um, I, I'm not going to ask you to reveal your email, but what do you think is the best way for photographers to contact you? Should they Google your name, or should they try to get your name from the receptionist?
um, I don't mind it. I mean, I know that even when I was an assistant, I think it's best for someone to find out either who the receptionist is or who the department assistant is. And I used to answer questions like that all the time. I'd get calls all day and they'd say, okay, like, who's your photo director? Who are the editors? And who else might be interested in this type of work? And, they should answer you honestly because nobody wants to get inundated with, junk email basically.
Sure, that
So
sounds
if you
fair.
want yeah, I can give you my email address. I don't really care.
All right, you're brave as well. Go for it.
It's just my first initial last name, so E, then F as in Frank, AGERLAND at marthastewart.com.
Erin and Kat are super brave. I hope you guys spend a lot of time thinking about what you want to send them, and adhering to their subject lines and email guidance before you inundate them. But thank you so much, Erin, for joining us today. It's really, really great information.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Photographers, thank you so much for joining us. If you want more info, we just published a survey about a month ago. It was a survey of 500 photo buyers and editors in different industries. You can download that plus other free reports from photoshelter.com/mkt/research. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/photoshelter, and on Twitter at photoshelter. This webinar will be recorded, is being recorded, and we will publish that on our blog in the next couple days at blog.photoshelter.com. Andrew will stay on the line for a few minutes more to answer your questions, but thank you so much for joining us. And once again, thank you to Kat and Erin for providing their expertise and their time. Goodbye, everyone.